Here we go. Right away. See, it weighs 3 grams. That's just the well, 4. That's just the needle part of the needle and seat. That's 4 grams is pushing down on a float. $150 needle and seat. These have a tendency to weigh a little bit more than the Viton needles and seats, and definitely require the counterbalance spring. This little spring will help the float seal that big needle and seat up a little bit better. Start with that. So moving right along, next thing to do is to assemble the float. So we'll set that down for a second. The float consists of an actual float. Now this is a full-size float. And this is another full-size float, but it's also been notched. So you got a notched float and a non-notched float. Now, big difference with these is that when you've got a 150 needle and seat, because they're heavier and they require more buoyancy in the float, you want to use the big float as often as you can. Because these here, as you can see, there's a lot of the float's been removed. So you got 2 big slots and the chunks are cut off the edges. This thing here, of course, there's a lot more float there. Alright, so I'm just going to use the big float for now. So, putting these together, you just put the hinge together like that. Usually what I do is I get the hinge started on one side, work from one side to the other. So put the little pin through the hinge, and it's in there. Now we're going to work with the spring. Now the spring is really important. Some people just don't even bother putting the spring in there, but this spring actually serves a purpose. This acts as like a counterbalance for the weight of the float. Oops. Using magnetic pliers doesn't help much. Alright, so here we go. We'll try this again. So this goes in. It's difficult to see what I'm doing here, but we'll come back and try to get a close-up shot of the way the spring goes in there. There's actually a hole in there that it goes through. And goes through on the other side here. Try again. Alright, here we go. Alright. Let's make sure the spring's in alright. So setting the spring, so you got about the right drop. Now, if you notice the spring, the float's dropping a long ways down on that spring right now. So far it's going down. I want to set that so there's actually more, there's more spring, so we got a little bit more aggression to hold that up. So in order to do that, you got to take that spring back out of there, and I'll try to show you the spring here. You can see it or not, but this little spring here, what we could do is actually bend this arm a little bit to make it have more spring pressure. I'll go ahead and bend this little arm a little bit. right. See the drop? Not quite as much as it used to be. So it's close enough now, it's worth trying it out. So let's just go ahead and take it, put the float, register it in there. Let's just see what how it seems to work. So lift up that plate. I just put one of the screws in there, fold it in. Alright, see how that's floating? Alright. So now you'd almost think that might be too much spring pressure because it's kind of closing that off there. So let's see what happens when we add that 3 grams of weight from just the needle and seat. So we'll go ahead and set this in there and give it a quick rough adjustment with the adjusting nut here. Let's just see what that does. The way the needle and seat, a little weight the needle and seat does to it. So that there might be a little bit much. You can see that when you pull it over, look at how it bounces shut. And that's what we want to do, is get enough little extra tension going on there. We want to be able to make sure that it opens. Now, an interesting fact, that with a 150 needle and seat, and you put on 7 psi of fuel pressure going into the fuel system, that pushes down on the needle and seat 56 grams So 56 grams worth of pressure is pushing that needle and seat open. So you still have quite a bit more weight to add to this whole system to hold this open. So this here, with the weight of the fuel attached to it, could be, and probably is, good enough. Especially when you got the big needle and seat. But some people will argue that you want to have it, less than that. And so I like to have it so it's just maybe 3/8 of an inch off the bottom. So this is just a little bit much. So I got to take it all apart again and retension that spring a little bit. And this is the float with the spring adjusted properly. You can see that it wants to kind of stay off the bottom of the bowl there. And as you turn it up on its side, it snaps shut. See, like that? Boom, boom, boom. That additional little help will help seal your needle and seat when your fuel balls float.